Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at our Upkeep webinar today. My name is Missa Giddens, and I'm the marketing manager here at Upkeep. And today our webinar is about asset operations in the wild, Upkeep customer experiences. A little housekeeping before we get started. During the event today, if you have any questions, there is a little question feature where you can type all your questions in. We'll make sure to try to get to those as we can. And we'll also have some time at the end to answer questions. There's also a chat feature. So if you have any comments about what's going on, please put them in there. Also, let us know your name and where you're from. So today our speakers are Ryan Chan, founder and CEO of Upkeep, and a couple of our customers. And I'll hand it over to you, Ryan, to start introductions.
All right. Thank you so much, Amissa, for the quick intro. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on today's webinar. It's February. It's our February webinar. And again, as Amissa mentioned, we are going to be sharing stories of our customers' asset operations in the wild. I just want to triple check. Can you all see my screen? Or did it just... I might have lost that. Let's see. All right. You can see my screen right now, right? Yeah, okay. All right, so we are going to be sharing a little bit more about asset operations out in the wild. So hearing from our customer stories, both Emiel and also Ricardo. As Amissa mentioned, my name is Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of Upkeep. I also wrote the book on asset operations. So I'm really excited to be here with two of our customers, Ricardo and Emiel. I'm going to pass the baton over to Ricardo to have him introduce himself.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. My name is Ricardo Carmona, and I'm the technical director of a really interesting company here in Mexico that is called NatGas. We build and operate CNG, compressed natural gas fueling stations. And yeah, my job here has been to be that connector between maintenance and other areas of our company, basically to improve our revenue. So that's kind of what I do here in NatGas. Thanks a lot for the invitation, Ryan.
Thanks, Ricardo. And Emiel.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Here from the Bosch in the Netherlands. My name is Emiel Verbunt. I'm working and I'm responsible for the maintenance and asset management within Plant Lab. Plant Lab is a company who does worldwide indoor farming. So we grow crops like lettuce and basil around the world. Like example in the Bahamas, in Indianapolis in the US, but also here in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And we now are developing in our own maintenance and asset management department.
All right. Thank you, Emiel and Ricardo, for all of our listeners and folks that joined us today. You're going to hear from Ricardo and Emiel directly about how they're implementing asset operations at their company and at their plant. Again, thank you so much for joining us. It's really cool to see all the different people, different faces, different geos and locations that people are coming from. We've got, Jason from Virginia, Lewis from Atlanta, Indiana. We've got, Bulgaria here as participants here in the webinar. So really, really excited to be sharing some of our customer stories. We've got a jam-packed agenda for today. In 40 minutes, we're basically going to cover where we believe maintenance is at today, where it's going to be in the future. We're going to talk and share a little bit more about the fundamentals of what asset operations is and how it's critical for our industry. We're going to quickly review the 8 pillars of asset operations, but the main meat of today is hearing from our two customers, Ricardo and Emiel, about how they've implemented asset operations at their companies. We'll leave a little bit of time for some closing thoughts and some Q&A. So again, if you have any questions at all throughout the presentation, drop it in our chat, use the Q&A function, and we'll try to get through as many questions as possible. With all that being said, oh wow, we have like very, very wide geographical representation here. We got Egypt, Denmark, Ireland, Idaho, Baltimore, Utah, Portugal. All right, really, really cool to see all the different names and faces. As I mentioned in the beginning, I'm going to start with where we're currently at. my goal is to inspire us to be part of shaping the future of maintenance. And I believe that right now, maintenance is divided. The entire inspiration behind asset operations was this idea that we saw within organizations where they're split into 3 different teams. You've got maintenance, you've got operations, you've got reliability teams focused on the same asset in parallel, but they're not working together. They're separated into silos and they're not working together. Right now, there's so much data across IoT, ERP, technical data. There's so much data available, but it's fragmented and remains misaligned across different business units within the company. And what we're seeing right now, the state of maintenance, is that the siloed data causes information gaps, which ultimately turn into rework. 20% of the work that's done in the field is because of a lack of available data. 20% of the work is basically rework. It's basically work that we should have completed correctly the first time. And I believe that there's this big disconnect in the market, in our industry, because we don't have the right access to the right data to do the work right the first time. And right now, I see that maintenance, operations, reliability are separated into these 3 different teams, which have 3 different measures of success. Again, they're working on the same asset, but they're approaching their work with misaligned goals. Right now, these siloed solutions, there's disconnected data, and this poor adoption of maintenance, reliability, operations teams, which ultimately prevent them from being successful. And I think that we're at the state within maintenance where I believe that it's simply not working. And right now, you have these 3 different teams that's stuck in this cycle of being undersupported, undervalued, and misunderstood. Right now, we oftentimes pull our budgets from this percent of replacement asset value. It could be 3%, 5% of your replacement asset value, but there's little reason or rhyme to why. How do we know we have the right financial resources allocated to maintenance? And on top of that, we see that maintenance teams are often measured by what they do, not why they do it. They're tracking, hours work orders completed, PMs completed, but they're not oftentimes measuring the impact that this all has to the business bottom line. And so we believe that if this continues to happen, these 3 teams are going to remain divided. Company leadership is going to maintain and continue to view maintenance as a cost center. I started out in the beginning saying that the goal here is to inspire us to be part of this change. But I know that it's probably not super inspirational right now, but I think that we have this opportunity to break the cycle. And I think the most important thing we can start to do is shift the entire industry's mindset to one where we're viewing the different departments as different teams within our organization to one department called asset operations. The vision here is to centralize your entire maintenance, reliability, operations team under one team called asset operations, where your team can now start to view the entire asset lifecycle and connect the what we do to the why we do it. This is the foundation of asset operations. And our view here, again, is change the conversation from how many hours did someone work today to what's the value that you've added to the business today. And our goal here is really shifting the entire industry's mindset from one to this view that maintenance can actually be seen as a profit center. It's super important. This is more important now than ever. I think that we're going to hear some great stories from 2 of our customers that have helped really join all these 3 different departments and embark on this mission of asset operations at their plant. We're going to hear from both Ricardo and Emiel about some of the challenges they faced deploying the 8 pillars of asset operations at their business and how they're able to overcome these challenges and the impact that it ultimately had. I think I can speak for both Ricardo and Emiel that the vision behind asset operations helped them achieve company-wide intelligence. It enabled, again, me speaking for Ricardo and Emiel, we're going to hear from them directly, but it helped them thread together the entire organization's maintenance department, collecting both the passive data, active data, and also create this unique operational blueprint to make it easier and faster for every single employee, every single technician, operator to do what they need to do to be successful in their role. All right, with all that being said, I want to quickly review the 8 pillars of asset operations, but more importantly, I want to hear from, I'm sure all of you guys want to hear from both Ricardo and Emiel directly, how they implemented the 8 pillars of asset operations. So the first pillar of asset operations is one, maintenance reliability operations must work together to be aligned on achieving a common goal. The second one is that data must flow into a single repository. 3, measure teams based on why they do something rather than what they do. 4, relentlessly collect the right data, display the best insights, and provide actionable feedback through a centralized command center. 5, asset operations is an abundant life cycle and not just a point in time. 6, you can only improve what you measure. 7, diligently measure the efficiency of your assets. And 8, maintenance, reliability, and operations can be a revenue driver and not just a cost center. All right, so we've reviewed a lot. We've talked a lot about what asset operations is, why I think it's important and critical. We've reviewed the 8 pillars of asset operations, but let's hear it from our 2 guest speakers, our 2 customers of Upkeep, Ricardo and Emiel, about how they've implemented, each pillar of asset operations. So I mentioned the first pillar of asset operations is that maintenance, reliability, and operations must operate together to align on achieving a common goal. So I want to ask you, Ricardo, as you deployed this vision behind, common goals within your 3 teams, what were some of the challenges that you had and how were you able to achieve success? And what did success look like for you in NatGas?
Thanks, Ryan. Well, our companies are undeniably built a certain way. And it was no different when I got into NatGas back in 2016. When I arrived here, I found our legacy structures, how we are building, and probably many companies like us, that we have these fueling stations. We have operators in the fueling stations that they serve the fuel to the customers, and we have maintenance teams inside the company. So I was like bumping into this reality that they were disconnected. I had, for example, technicians that were only following the legacy instructions where the message that my maintenance manager were transferring to those guys were you need to work, complete. Our goal is to keep that equipment operational, things like that. And from the other side, my operations manager and those teams that were the phrase to the customers, they were looking at how do I sell more gas? Like, how do I have a better service to my customer? And it was wrong, because for what asset operations is built upon is that we need to connect the main goal, and the message that we were transferring was a wrong message, that we were different departments and almost different companies. So the advice that I will give in this sense is that we need to watch the message that our managers are sending to our different teams, and how we correct that. We set a goal in terms of availability of our equipment, and even operations as well as maintenance, they were working to have this big goal and in their mindset all the time. So that's kind of our first approach to having that alignment that we needed.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you have the operators, your maintenance team, and it sounds like had completely different goals, but once you're able to standardize on this common goal around availability, what was the impact? What was the reception like and how did that change the way that people work together, after you move towards this common goal of availability?
Well, it turned out that we sent that message through our managers, that they didn't realize that they weren't really working together, and the technicians and the operators saw that and understood that this was coming from their departments. It was not a different unit talking to them, so it was an alignment set for them. And what it enabled us to do was to see from with our own eyes, like the new cooperation between these two guys that had like a service relationship, like my equipment is wrong, is failing or whatever, to let's work on this. Help me to understand what is happening. So next time when I see this, so it created a different environment for my operators to get involved more in what the other guys were doing, and the other in the other direction it happened as well. So that was beautiful to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Like just the communication sounds like, improved so much between the operators and the maintenance technicians once you aligned on the same common goal, versus them almost like fighting at each other, saying, hey, why did you cause this issue? Or, why did you take a piece of equipment down to run the repair? All right. Thank you, Ricardo. Our second pillar here on asset operations is this view that data must flow into a single repository. Once we get the shared common goal, we must be reporting on the same data and have it all be shared and accessible in a single repository. So I want to ask you, Emiel, what were some of the challenges that you, team at Plant Lab, had to centralize all of this data across a single repository? And what were some of the positive effects that you also saw from doing that?
Yeah, here at Plant Lab, we're already here for 13 years. We built a lot of locations around the world. And to build new locations around the world, we need to store our data central in a data warehouse. So data is not automatically comes there. So first step to look where all the information was. So the challenges were that we have to collect all the information and also see where the risks were, in the assets, but also in the organization. So if you look to the information management, we have to look where all the data was collected. Now you saw that it was also on people's personal computers and drives. It was in the cloud. It was everywhere. So first step was to find where the data was. And the second step was, it sounds a bit silly maybe, but we also had to check it with reality. So we went to all the locations, see if their assets were really there in the end, and also check what the risks were. And if you want to do that, you have to also, what Ricardo said, your colleagues has to work together. But every colleague has an own work mentality and work process. So we had to cut that and change that risk that we have. And if you want to do that, you have to keep all the people inspired. So you also have to take them on the train and let them see what you are doing and what your plans are. So in the short term, we get some successes. So we could build our own maintenance department and put all the people on the key spots. And what we implement was leadership for reliability. So everybody knows what they have to do and also know what their responsibility was. And if we have that, we could build a strategic plan and implement it for the future. So we could create a foundation for the future. And now you see the positive things there, that everybody is working in the same workflow. Data is collected, is stored. Not always good, I have to admit, but for 99% it's collected in the cloud, and we connected to Upkeep, so everybody can see what assets we have, what the naming of the asset is, what the location is, handhelds, checklists, everything is now in one single repository. So it's also transparency for everyone. Everybody can see it, can look at it, and also with your colleagues you can discuss how we can, what is our plan, how we can resolve and repair or something like that. So you see that it was very positive, and also the people get inspired and also get a positive attitude for the future. So that.
Absolutely. I mean, what I see and what I've seen so much from our customers is that when you can start to trust the data, you can start to do some phenomenal things. And when you have data that could be living in 16 different systems, and maybe it's an Excel spreadsheet here, maybe it's in a notebook there, a different ERP there, and your upkeep system here, like it's hard to trust that data. But it sounds like you got real good gains from the team in improving workflow and efficiency and better trust around the team once you're able to say, like, this is our source of truth. If you have any questions, go to Upkeep, go to your asset operations platform.
Yeah, that's right. And also all the app groups have to delete, because everybody has now a single source of truth where the data is stored. So
yeah, thank you so much, Emiel, for sharing a little bit about how you centralize all that data to build trust within your team. Our asset operations pillar number 3 is measure teams based on why they do something, not what they do. So Ricardo, I know that your team has kind of gone through this transformation about, not just doing work orders to do work orders, but having a full sense of purpose and understanding of the impact that it has to the bottom line of the business. Could you share a little bit more about how you implemented that, some of the challenges, and ultimately how you were able to achieve that success?
Yeah, of course, Ryan. Well, our technicians, and when I say our technicians, I'm talking about probably many technicians around the world. You will know, you guys that are in the audience, that they are raised to do one thing: is fix other things, fix equipment. That's what they're trained to do from where the moment they start working at maintenance related facilities. They are taught to as units that need to fix things. All right. So that's the name, other name for completing work orders. So they are trained to do that. When I got into my position here at NatGas, I started to realize that. I mean, my manager is also raised or trained to do that. Like, he wants to complete work orders. He wants to not have work orders open. And there are many softwares that can do that, help you around that. And what I found out is that I needed to change that in our equipment. We needed to set more ambitious goals. And one of the things is that we were talking about KPIs that were not aligned with our goal. That we needed availability. We didn't need work order completion per se. So we started to talk about how can we do this with more purpose. Do we have the tools to do that? So we put in place this interesting story. I think you're gonna love that. We started measuring different things around the work orders to have when we had the possibility to measure things or measure different variables of the work order. So we put in place a dashboard, let's say a real-time dashboard in our maintenance office, a really large screen with the faces of them. And one of the things that we were showing was like, all right, this is the work that you need to do right now in terms of work orders open and closed. But that was some additional info, because the real thing that I was measuring was if that work order was having an impact. So in some certain moments, you need to those to be filled at a certain time. In other times, you need to have a percentage of the work orders being developed before this date. You need to put different indicators. So we had this kind of point system. All right. So you could see that your work, not only as filling work orders, but doing them in a way that we had more availability of our equipment, it added up to your score. And you didn't need to do 100 work orders to be at the top of that scoreboard. You needed to complete them with the real purpose of what I was looking for as a leader in that area. So that allowed me to actually reward them at the end of the month with 1 day off, 2 days off, depending on of what they were doing, but with purpose. And they really understood that when we started adding up different things like having the time to analyze what we were talking about. We were saving time, not many work orders. So that really set a precedent in our unit that we weren't looking for this checkpoint that meant 100 work orders for a technician. It's not fixing or finishing this, it's doing it with purpose.
Yeah. I mean, I personally love hearing that story, and I've actually seen your team's dashboard too, Ricardo, and it makes me very, very happy when I see that, because you transitioned away from just measuring work orders and number of work orders completed to what is the impact that each one of these jobs have on the bottom line of the business. Like, how is it actually impacting the business as a whole? And I do believe, and I also do remember seeing like the first iterations of the dashboard, and it was purely points based. It was purely like work orders, PMs completed. And I love to hear the story of like how you've evolved that from like very, very, let's call it basic metrics around what teams are doing, and evolving that to how it's really impacting your business. And maybe asset operations pillar number 3 is not so much measure teams, but reward teams based on why they do something rather than what they do. So I feel like you've also evolved this pillar as well, Ricardo.
Yeah, it's also another thing that we're going to talk in a few other pillars. It's a progression that we need to take into account. Start from some point. You probably would need to start measuring the work orders closed. That's cool, but you have that bug in your head, like it's not all of it. This is not gonna do the transition that you want for your department or your unit or your company. You have that bug in your mind, and that's constantly telling you that you need to increase, and that's another thing we're going to talk a little bit further in the presentation.
Yeah. Not all work orders are treated equally. All right. Asset operations pillar number 4: collect the right data, display the best insights, provide actionable feedback through a centralized command center. The vision here is that our customers, you all, it's not about just collecting the right data. It's not about just how many work orders you complete. It's about making sure that we can do it in one centralized command center so that we can create this continuous feedback cycle. Emiel, would love to hear a little bit more about again how you operationalized this at Plant Lab.
Yes, Ryan. On this side, we want to have in our maintenance process, the foundation is an upkeep. We want to have an executable maintenance plan. And if we want to have that, we want to make some decisions in our foundation, in our strategy and planning. So we want to have insights in asset performance and insights in OPEX cost. So first of all, what we're going to see, can we prescribe what's happening in our operation? How are pumps running? How they operate? Chillers, LEDs, for example. And can we predictive what could happen in the future with them? When do we have to change a pump of a motor? What is going to evolve in our life cycle delivery for the future? And also real-time asset performance, like asset condition monitoring. I think for everybody a well-known pillar, and also energy analysis. For us, like Plant Lab, we use a lot of electrical energy, so we want to analyze that and see how we can optimize that for the future. And on what times it's the best time to process and grow the crops. but also what's happening in an operation. Where do we spend money on? What is the budget for the future? So also we want to that the mechanics do some cost registration. That also has some challenges, but some people are thinking, okay, are we followed, or what's the occasion of it? But for us, it's very it gives a lot of insights out how we spend money in operation, which assets are running to failure in a very short time, and at what time we have to change them, for example. And we can make what Ricardo also said in our dashboard. We can make cost analysis, so we can make plans for the future where we're going to invest our money in the assets for the future. But also you see now that all our data, what we collect, gives a lot of information for our project teams who are building the new facilities. So for the assets, what kind of specifications can we optimize them? If we optimize them, it's also good, but also for the design and installation and commissioning of the new facilities and assets. It gives a lot of insights. And eventually, you see that also in the slide, it gives an add value for our business process. So in our board, they are happy with all the data and storage and displayed. So everybody can see what's happening in the full business process. It gives a very lot of add value for us as a Plant Lab organization.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Emiel. It's really cool to see how you've operationalized, again, this process of continuous feedback through your asset performance management system, tying it to cost, and then bringing it back into better maintenance practices. That's what this pillar is all about. And it's quite incredible to see how you've really paved the path of this centralized command center. Now that you have a single data repository, you're able to actually bring together cost data, analyze asset performance, and then tie it to maintenance day to day. All right, asset operations, pillar number 5. We kind of alluded to this, but the whole vision behind asset operations is once we centralize all of our data, we can create a centralized command center to display data, capture insights, and then drive action. It's not about just doing it one time, but this idea that it's an abundant life cycle. It's a continuous improvement project where we're never just setting PMs for the year and forgetting it. Instead, it's constant feedback of how do we improve? How do we optimize our PMs? How do we optimize our maintenance program? Ricardo, could you share a little bit more about how you are able to create this continuous improvement process at NatGas?
Yes, and Ren, and please to the audience, let me tell you a story about how to build a high-performance maintenance team. And this one is really easy. You only need this magic application, CMMS, that you have, and you talk to a team that it's actually scattered around between paperwork orders and doing things their own way and whatever, and you throw them the app, and that will fix it and build a high-performance team. So that's absolutely fake, because that was what I found when I got here at NatGas. Because I had this scattered around team, technicians that were actually doing their work orders on paper and really organized, but the next technician was actually doing Excel spreadsheets, and the other one was using the application that was meant to save them all. And I was like, how? And the backlog was huge, and we weren't even completing the PMs that we were set to do in a year. And it was like, why? No, but we're working on the application. That is not going to solve it. I mean, I had to find what was this step-by-step plan. And that's part of this experience. It's not about throwing things around and like a dictator, this is what you're going to do, is to listen, to try things, and be happy with step-by-step progress that you can achieve. And once I got this amazing tool that I knew that I could use to save us in this backlog we had, I had to do different things, to talk to the team, to double check on this guy that he was doing the paperwork orders and understand why, specifically overcoming that hurdle and setting everything for success, with different technician being a different case and a different win. And I did a win with this technician in this week. It took time, but definitely this all structure came together into one. We started doing all our work orders through our new application with Upkeep, then 70%, then 80%, then 90%, then all the work orders were perfect. Then the backlog started to reduce. Then in probably like several months, we started to see, all right, we have this time available right now. Can we now move forward to this predictive maintenance? That story short, we started saving a lot of money with new ways to improve our availability, with saving money in our predictive maintenance for electrical equipment. And that when you see it, it's like very easy. You knew that you were going to get there, but it's not. It's a continuous process. It takes time, and it depends on, of course, on where are you starting. And that's kind of my message. It's going to take some time. Just be patient, really, really patient.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that story, Ricardo, of, again, your team's continual progress and improvement, as you move from just being purely reactive to getting into a digital system, which helped you improve documentation and ultimately move from, reactive to preventative to predictive. Really, really cool story. All right. Emiel, everything measured can be improved. Could you share a little bit more about, again, your kind of like challenges as you went through this pillar and picking a metric, improving it over time?
Yeah, this is a bit upfront for the last pillar, but all the data that we measured, it gives us a lot of information, and maybe this is the one that we are most proud of, because it saves us a lot of money, but also gives a lot of insights. And nowadays on our locations in Amsterdam and Indianapolis and all the other ones, all the assets in the production units we measure, like pumps and chillers and fans and LEDs, the power of them. All those, and you have to, I think, press the button, Ryan, for the next visually. All the data that we stream, like voltages and current and power factor, it gives us a lot of information and intelligence, and we connect or integrate an other software tool from Eureason, a Dutch company, into Upkeep, and all the data from the pumps and chillers we directly send to Upkeep, and we see all the performance data, the notifications, the prescriptions, a bit what also Ricardo said in the last pillar. And also gives us information about the asset conditions. We can do energy analysis. Of course, that energy analysis saves a lot of money for us, but also remaining useful life of the asset. We almost can predict when a motor of a pump is going to break. And you see up and visualization in Upkeep, and what we have see in real time, what we measure. In this case, the pump efficiency of a motor of a pump, and you see, I have to be honest, that the pump efficiency is not that good. So for us, this gives a lot of information to optimize this pump and improve it. But also this information, what we measure, we can support our workforce with automating work orders when they have to be maintenance, but also when they have to be in repair of a retrofit, of a replacement of a motor. We also can, with our wholesalers, we can upfront order and pump and right on time the pump will be on the facility and can be replaced before the pump will break. So eventually the last step is that the software is going to talk to us automatically and gives us insights of recent data, and it's 24 hours. So we don't need a service desk. It's fully automatic and schedule and plan for us the mechanics on site. And all this we have built in Upkeep in one interface, and we want to centralize it and measure there all the performance of the assets, and also share it with the mechanics, but also share it with the stakeholders from our company, so that they can see what we have achieved and with challenges we have to optimize some assets. So for us, it's very important to measure everything, and so that we can prove it, and eventually it saves a lot of money.
Absolutely. All right. So in the interest of time, got to speed through the last two pillars here. But thank you again, Emiel, for sharing, your actual account within Upkeep and how you're utilizing your Upkeep system to centralize all of your data and make it the central place where you can, improve your optimization of maintenance assets. Ricardo, would love to hear a little bit more about how you tackle this pillar, making data accessible wherever you are.
Yeah, I want to share with you this story about context. To me, I feel that in our area where we're joining maintenance, operations, reliability, I think context it's a very important thing that we often we take for granted, or we don't see it as the importance that it needs. And I really knew that something was wrong with my organization when I went to the field with my technicians and I asked two questions: one, what, and one, when. I asked this technician, like, all right, what are you working on here? And he's like, I'm trying to fix my compressor because the temperature in the third stage is really, really getting high, and that's unusual. That's a what. And then I was like, when was the last time it happened? And he was like, probably like in a month ago. And what was the temperature in that time? And he was like, I'm not really sure. And I knew that he didn't know that information for sure. And when I asked a couple questions, he was like, he was not really sure of what was the last time, the context of the situation. He knew the situation, he knew the failure that he was facing at that moment, but he didn't understand the real context. And that went into my mind, like, and I went into this rabbit hole, like, how and how can I improve that? And one word that really resonated with me, it's probably very simple very simple for you, Ryan. When I saw for the first time Upkeep video of what was going on, there was this word that kept resonating. It was mobile first application. And when I read that, I was like, why Ryan is making this so much emphasis in mobile first? And I knew that was my solution in this issue. I knew that you needed, as a technician, to make sense of that data, of that problem, as soon as possible. It's gonna pay for a lot of time that you were wasting fixing things and don't taking care about context, because you weren't looking at the pressures while looking at the temperatures, because you didn't understand that that didn't happen in almost a year, so it needed a different context study for that case. And that story really resonated with me. And my invitation to everyone in this audience is that go to the field with your technicians and ask them those two questions. What are you working on? When was the last time that it happened? When was the last time that this issue came up to you? And you're gonna test where you are at this contest situation. You need that data accessible. You need to see that technician pulling up their phone, their tablet, and responding to you that question. And if that doesn't happen, you probably need to be working on that.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. All right, our last pillar here, maintenance, reliability, operations can be revenue drivers and are not just cost centers. Emiel, could you share a little bit more about how you tackle this pillar within your organization?
Yeah, for us, all the insights that we get from our business process or maintenance process gives a lot of successes. But yeah, of course, we had a lot of challenges also, and I've spoken that in the pillars before. Maybe without time, I will only focus on the successes. So eventually, our business process gets a lot of success in our strategy and planning and decision making. We can roll out roles and responsibilities, so everybody knows what they have to do. And also what Ricardo said, we have to take them to the field and show them what they have to do and lead to them. And of course, we have a lot of control and insights of our risks and cost and performance of our assets. Eventually, it gives a lot of cost insights, and of course, it won't be a cost center; it will be revenue because we have control over the cost. Um, and of course, eventually, also the people get knowledge about the assets and how do you have to handle them, and what's the best way to repair them or do the preventive maintenance, of what measure of standard risk management is there, or standards to maintain them. And in the end, we get control of the asset life cycle and planning, and we can do continued improvements of all our assets. So that's our success in this pillar.
All right. Yeah, that's the ultimate vision here behind asset operations. Connect the what you do to why you do it. And then ultimately view maintenance, reliability operations teams as revenue drivers and the impact that it has to the bottom line. Those are our 8 pillars of asset operations, and I hope that everyone got some interesting nuggets from both Ricardo and Emiel about how they implemented the 8 pillars of asset operations at their business. I kind of like to end it here with, Ricardo, Emiel, what advice do you have for those looking to implement asset operations at their plant, at their organization? Maybe we can start off with Ricardo.
Hold on. Can you see me right now?
Yes, now we can.
Yeah. Well, my advice is gonna have to be to take it one step at the time. Having that curiosity is very, very important, and it will definitely increase your chances to become a better company, to get that revenue that your boss is probably asking for in the way that you're running your departments. But it's needed to have this step-by-step approach, because if not, you're gonna get frustrated. You're gonna get your technicians frustrated. One of the questions that I was reading was about the size, about that's a factor, definitely. I mean, when the size is bigger, you need to be really self-aware of what the situation is and how quick can you move forward. Don't try to pull this trigger and throw this CMMS or throw this tool to your technicians, to your operations team, or throw the asset operation management book to your boss and tell him that it's going to fix things for sure. I mean, it's going to take time. You need to be paying attention to those small objectives, to those small goals, and then you're going to start seeing things happen. You got to believe first and execute really, really slowly.
Thank you, Ricardo. And Emiel, any recommendations, advice for those looking to implement asset operations?
Yeah, well, also what Ricardo said, take it step by step, but also have a good overview what's happening in the organization. Go into the field, go with your mechanic, see what's happening into the field, how the assets will be operate. Take your time, and don't do it today or tomorrow. But if you don't have a good feeling, look for upcoming 2 or 3 months. But see what it's going to do, what is the add value, what you want to implement. Because if you don't right, the board will be not satisfied, and maybe pick another CMMS, or maybe go back to the Excel files again, what you don't want. So yeah, have a good overview, see what's happening in your organization, what's happening with the mechanics, and how is your add value into the process. That is my advice for you all.
All right. Thank you so much, Emiel. Thank you so much, Ricardo, for sharing your stories of implementing asset operations at your two companies. I know that both of you had very, very different experiences, but oftentimes overcame similar challenges at the same time. So I'm hoping that there are a few nuggets across one of these 8 pillars that each of one of our listeners could apply at their business. If you don't know already, we wrote this book called Asset Operations. Today we really only just scratched the surface of what the asset operations, pillars are. If you're interested in reading more about what asset operations is, how to implement it, other stories from different customers, you can actually, purchase our book. It's available on Amazon or also at assetoperations.com. I think here, I know we're a little bit over time. Maybe we could answer a few Q&A before we wrap up. Missa, do we have any questions that the group asked that maybe we could get to real quick?
Yeah, James asked, do you have any good examples of what KPIs you use to measure success in a modern environment? I think that probably just goes generally.
Sure.
Ryan, do you want to answer that one?
Why don't we pass it over to either Emiel or Ricardo? What are the KPIs for success that you and your team measure for success?
Well, I'm going to have to say that in my case was availability. And as my organization works, we have 22 different locations. And let's talk, for example, about the dispensers, which are the key for our selling of our fuel. So we needed to come up with some way to get that availability up in a way, and we weren't able to have that before kind of the digital transformation that we needed to overcome. So it was a challenge that we knew that we needed to get there. At the first moment, we didn't have that KPI, but we understood that we needed the tools to project that KPI. In my case, was availability of the equipment, and that was the KPI that I could use to connect my operations team and my maintenance teams. That's what I was needing.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Ricardo. Steve just asked, who from your organizations are reviewing the analytical performance data to look for performance opportunities?
Yeah, that are the stakeholders in the organization, like people in the board or the production manager, who wants to see what the availability is of all the assets, but also a project director, so he can see how the assets are operating, and what they can see how to re-engineer the future facilities. And that's in short.
Cool. Thanks, Emiel. Let's see. We had a couple. We had a lot
One
of
more
questions.
we could probably take.
Yeah. Let's see.
I know that we're, yeah.
For Ricardo, this is from Angelo. He said, what was the level of maintenance schedule compliance before you made the changes to move away from the typical KPI metrics? Do you believe that a benchmark of proficiency is necessary before a transition is made?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to take you back to my story, I find out that probably 50% of the work orders that were created in a month or in a week were programmed in a week weren't compliant at the end of that week. So I had like a 50% effectiveness when I got there, and yeah, I needed to move to new KPIs, right? I had that ambition there, but I needed to clean the table in the first place. So it was not to be very ambitious at the first time, at the first moments, at the first months. We needed to demonstrate And my key to success was to demonstrate those technicians that this is where we were. So take a look at this moment in time, 2-3 months in this new tool, how we are 90% completion with your same KPIs. I mean, I'm not touching how I'm measuring the team right now, but take a look at how we went from here to there. All right, so now it's a moment. In my case, was around 90% of compliance, and I was like, all right, this is a moment when I want you to think about the whys, not about the what, and it was perfect in my case scenario. It was like that was a moment when I needed to move to a proficiency and a more let's say point direction type of work.
Thank you again, Ricardo. Thank you, Emiel, and thank you to all of our participants, attending today's session live, and those that are going to also watch the recording, later on. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to, share your stories about implementing asset operations in the wild. Thank you to Anissa for helping organize today's session. Yeah, I mean, this recording will be available and sent to your email afterwards. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Mm.
Take